just tell us how serious these numbers are in vaccine terms.
Well, yeah, the rate of 1 in 800, it can vary somewhat. It's just the best estimate we have given the evidence from the best evidence that we can have with randomized controlled trials. Now, as for the amount of harm, 1 in 800, if you compare this to all the other vaccines, essentially you see serious harm with them at about a rate of 1 to 2 in a million. Because our vaccine safety monitoring, whenever there's any hint of harm, that we've pulled those vaccines off the market. So at least people can rest assured that when they're giving their children these the other vaccines, that those are safe. This is on a totally different level.
And what is the reason for that? Because it would appear just to a layman that evidently they've changed the standard by which they release products onto the market. There's a huge difference between 1 in 800 or that 0.9 in 500 for the Pfizer and the standard, which, as you say, is 1 or 2 adverse events in a million.
Yeah, there has not been any sort of public policy change. The FDA and the CDC do not they're not acknowledging that these harms are occurring.
So
I would also like to point
out, yeah.
I wanted to point out one thing on that harm benefit analysis. As when you opened up this story, it's a little bit more. It needs to be understood in a slightly different way. You have harm, right? This harm benefit analysis. So you have, for example, it doesn't prove that the vaccine is more harmful than it is beneficial in all people. It demonstrates more the fragility of the balance between harms and benefit. For example, if the trial went longer, if the COVID cases were higher, or if people were at a higher risk of hospitalization, it's possible that we would have seen more benefit than harm. But alternatively, it's possible if, they tested this during an Omicron-like variant with lower hospitalization, more breakthrough infections, people with a lower risk of hospitalization, or people with natural immunity, then we would see more harm. Well, we'd see decreased benefit. So it would move the equation of harm and benefit towards harm. So this is, people have a little bit misunderstood this. And I just wanted to make it clear that our analysis, it simply points out that there are different factors that would change this harm benefit analysis, and it can go in either direction.
Yeah, but you're actually talking about a harm benefit analysis. So what you're saying makes perfect sense, that you might devise a vaccine for a particularly virulent virus, and then some weak, pathetic variation comes along, and so the harm benefit analysis between the vaccine and this pathetic, harmless variant changes. But we don't hear that from the government, from the media, from the propaganda about this. What you've just said, for example, I cannot recall any Western health minister actually saying, well, the cost-benefit analysis on the vaccines has changed because we now, the main thing circulating is this harmless Omicron thing.
It seems that it's a pretty obvious take on it. If the vaccine's causing less hospitalization, then you're going to have less benefit from a vaccine. That's quite clear. I mean, I think that you're correct in that people our public officials are not speaking about this, and I really believe it's their duty to be speaking out about the findings in our study. As a physician, it's my responsibility to inform my patients of the potential harms of any interventions and the old ethical principle of informed consent. Now, I understand that can make people concerned that maybe it'll make people, take the vaccine less. However, my desire to want to give a beneficial treatment to a patient does not outweigh their right to be informed on an individual intervention. And it also does not, they also have the right to refuse a medical intervention. And the desire of our public health officials or of any physician they're not equal to each other. And this is a dilemma that we've answered. We universally agreed upon informed consent as a principle within modern Western medicine.
Yeah. No, that's critically important. But for example, I mentioned one of our vaccine widows who's been on this show, Vicky Spitt, and she was at the coroner's inquest for the love of her life, and the medical professionals there who had attended him and been in hospital with him said that they actually had no information on any harmful effects. Anything that called into question the vaccine, they only knew about if they went Googling hither and yon, and after 3, 4, 7, 12 links, they came across something that told them there were possible side effects to the vaccine. So in other words, it's not even clear to me whether the doctors and nurses and the other people, because a lot of these jabs are not even being administered by medical professionals. In the United States, you can get them in firehouses and grade schools and all kinds of places. It's not clear to me under that system if the nice little old lady in your local fire station is in a capacity to bring you up to speed on informed consent.
Yeah, I'm not certain that most physicians are able to do it because this information is not being widely circulated by our public health agencies. So it's there where it stays kind of under the radar, and we're stuck with this situation.
Do you think your paper will change the debate on this? Or are you worried that, like the fellas who wrote the Great Barrington Declaration, that you guys will just instantly be reviled in public, and you'll be damned as anti-vaxxers and all the rest of the rubbish?
I hope not. I hope that's not the case. But it has been quite disheartening to we've tried hard to communicate with various different media and to explain the story. We thought it was important enough that more media would pick it up, and you're the first media that was, I think, reporting on this. So it's a difficult situation.
Absolutely.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know how to bring more attention to it, and but we are trying to.
Well, you've published this paper. It's in Vaccine, which is the journal for this subject, and the bottom line takeaway is there's a 1 in 800 adverse event over all these vaccines. That's Pfizer, Moderna, all the rest of them, and that the numbers are actually even worse for individual vaccines within them. 1 in 800 versus 1 in a million for the vaccines we've been familiar with for decades.
Yes, that's exactly what we found in our study.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor. We're going to come. Yeah, carry on.
You got it. We are very concerned, and we do want to bring attention to this. And it's something that people should be aware of before they are vaccinated. I'm not giving any recommendation on what people should do, but they at least should be informed about the potential for harm that our study has found.